without further ado, it is my pleasure to introduce today's first speaker, Caitlyn Volks, Senior Researcher with Ipsos's User Experience Team. Caitlyn, you have the floor.
Thanks, Ellen, and thank you everyone for joining our webinar. Today, Jason and I will share key learnings from a study that we did with virtual reality users to understand how their usage of VR has evolved over the course of the pandemic. We're going to talk about their current experiences with immersive virtual worlds, their hopes and concerns for the future of extended reality technology, as well as the emerging metaverse landscape. In just a moment, we're going to define a few of these terms. But first, let me give you a picture of what the webinar will look like today. We're going to start, of course, as I mentioned, by defining extended reality, like AR, VR, and of course, what is the metaverse. Then we're going to examine data that we had used to inspire some of the research that we ended up doing. We're going to look at how the background of COVID-19 and different factors within the last 2 years have really catalyzed the adoption and use of AR and VR, and also cemented the value of social experiences online. Then we will share with you findings from a recent study that we did with actual VR users. There we'll share the insights that we learned for what users hope VR and AR technologies will look like as it continues to improve. Finally, we'll share key tips that we've learned anyone should consider when building extended reality experiences that may serve as a solid starting point for metaversical experiences as well. So as I mentioned, let's take a step back and define some of these terms. We'll see where we're at right now with metaverse and how it's evolved. Extended reality is an umbrella term for technology that connects physical and virtual together. We're going to start with virtual reality, which is one of the extended reality technologies that we're going to speak a lot about today. Virtual reality allows the user to fully immerse themselves into a digital or a virtual place. They can, in this place, try on avatars, attend virtual events, go to virtual places like this VR chat art museum, or even meet with other people to have experiences together. Virtual reality allows people to interact with the digital places that they're in a first-person mode. It's full immersion, so people are completely disconnected from the physical or real space that's around them. On the flip side of this, augmented reality overlays digital objects onto a physical world. It allows for light interaction to turn or place a digital object. Most augmented reality experiences that many of you may have seen or even used yourselves already are accessed through legacy devices like a phone or a tablet. You might remember IKEA's experience where you can put furniture or design cabinets and kind of place them using your phone to see what it would look like in your home. There are headsets available for augmented reality. However, currently most are not used widely by consumers. And augmented reality doesn't block out the physical or real world completely. So it's not immersive in the same way that virtual reality is. Mixed reality is more of a middle ground. This augments reality similar to augmented reality. However, it provides more interaction with the digital overlays, and it also provides more options for immersion. So it's kind of the in-between of AR and VR in some ways. Mixed reality is not widely used by consumers either, and at the moment is mostly used in industry. For example, a mechanic might wear a mixed reality headset. For that, they may receive some digital information or images, 3D images, that could help them diagnose and solve a car malfunction. Of course, they'd still have to fix the physical car, but the headset might help them gauge the proper alignment that's required to solve that issue. In the future, extended reality devices may be more combined so that people can decide which contexts they want to use more or less immersion for. So now we know a little bit about what extended reality is, but what is metaverse? The term metaverse has been used in several different ways over the last several months, ever since it's exploded into mainstream media. The idea of a metaverse has become a vision for a new futuristic way to market to consumers, facilitate e-commerce, or even bring physical experiences into a digitized or digital one. We need to remember that this is a vision for a metaverse that doesn't quite exist yet. The idea of a metaverse is a connected ecosystem of many digital technologies, which would work seamlessly together and provide a way for physical and digital worlds to merge and provide a blended or phygital experience. As you can see on the right here, we have a few different aspects of what this could look like. The idea is that you could move between each of these easily. To paint a picture for you, let me provide you a scenario. Since the metaverse would blend digital information and give you access to that anywhere within a physical world too, this would truly be phygital. So let's imagine that in 10 years, you have extended reality contacts. These allow you to connect them to your smart earbuds. You're traveling in a new city and want to buy a sweater. You ask your virtual assistant where you can find a clothing boutique that has cardigans available in your usual budget. Your virtual assistant already knows your budget. The busy street in front of you slightly goes out of focus as your virtual assistant pulls up the nearest store options for you in your field of view. You select a store that's 30 blocks away by foot, and your virtual assistant offers you different route options. While doing so, you notice that your favorite taxi app is offering a deal today. You say, "Taxi," to activate it. It sends a driver automatically to you. It's geolocated your location. Once you get to the store, you find a sweater that you like. You pick it up and your XR contacts sync with a virtual menu and a virtual storefront. This offers you different options to choose from. You can try on the sweater using a virtual mirror. You can access your digitized closet to compare the sweater against what you've already owned. And you can purchase the sweater right there, right then, using virtual currency, like a crypto wallet or phone pay. Your virtual assistant notifies you of a deal. The store is offering to add a virtual stylist to help you style the sweater with clothes that you have in your closet or help you find additional options in the store. Once you decide to purchase the sweater, it's automatically added into your digital closet so that you have the physical sweater, but you also have a digital version too that you can bring with you wherever you go. Now, this story is simply a scenario to offer an example of how this could work if all of these components worked nicely together. We don't have a true metaverse yet. We do have, though, separate components which may become more interconnected over the next few years. As we will explore, virtual reality is one of the current and consistent ways that people are engaging with extended reality now. They use virtual reality to access virtual worlds, build and manage their identities by using avatars, socializing with others, playing games, attending events, etc. This may help us understand how these experiences will extend into less immersive applications too, such as augmented reality or mixed reality. Now I'm going to hand it off to Jason to talk about how we have observed the adoption of VR over the last 2 years and the factors that influence this evolution.
Thanks, Caitlin. So over the last 2 years, Caitlin and I have both devoted a lot of our time to research that centers on VR user experiences. We've seen firsthand how interest in VR has evolved rapidly throughout the course of the pandemic. We've seen glimmers of potential or new trending VR activities that go beyond gaming into socializing, fitness, travel, and productivity. We began to see habitual usage of VR rather than it being a novel device. So we hypothesized that the pandemic may have catalyzed adoption of VR, but we wanted to know exactly why consumers were using VR to socialize with others. And so looking at the landscape of VR, we see that in 2021, during the COVID-19 pandemic, demand and purchase for VR grew around the world. 78% of the 92% growth was from MetaQuest 2 alone. Other Ipsos research has shown that online engagements have spiked during COVID-19. This includes growth in social media, video chatting, entertainment, telehealth, and more. So I want you to take a look at the graph on the right. And what you'll see is that participating in virtual experiences, it's a familiar idea, particularly for younger adults ages 18 to 34. Nearly half are familiar with buying virtual costumes, clothing, and accessories for avatars on gaming or social platforms. Half are familiar with attending events in virtual worlds for that youngest age group. And 1/3 are familiar with attending paid virtual events and buying virtual artwork. So COVID-19 has made a space for immersive social experiences and has kind of become a basis for metaversical experiences to grow. Just as social media and screen time increased throughout COVID-19, we saw that the last 2 years impacted how frequently people use VR. In addition, we noticed that people expanded their use cases too beyond gaming to include socializing, working out, and traveling. Now, what's important to note with all this is that no activities actually decreased. Once they started doing it, they didn't stop. So we saw firsthand how people began to use VR more regularly, and we saw the diversity of activities persist, even now that the pandemic has slowed in the US. We decided to conduct research to speak with users who bought both into VR early on and also who have purchased VR within the last 2 years to see how and if these usage trends persisted and to understand how VR users view the role of VR in their day-to-day lives and routines. So we wanted to know what drove people to buy the device and how has their usage evolved over time? What's the value of VR worlds compared to other social devices or real life? How are they feeling about the current technology that they use and current content that they use to access immersive experiences now? And how do they feel or how do they view potential for extended reality technology and metaversical experiences like NFTs, AR, holograms, and more now and into the future? So we broke our research into 2 phases. A 10-day diary to document behaviors, and then we also had paired interviews in VR. So we could uncover their perspectives and their behaviors in this complex space. We collected a group of 36 VR users who represent a mix of the VR user base. 28% of the people that we spoke with were early adopters and purchased their headsets 3 or more years ago. 11% purchased their headsets just before the pandemic. 33% of those that we spoke with purchased their headsets within the last year. So we had a really pretty good range of individuals and times that they've used their VR headsets. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and hand it off to Caitlyn to share what we learned about how people value and use VR now.
Thanks, Jason. So, what did we learn? As we synthesized our research, we noticed 3 top themes for what people wanted out of their VR experiences. We learned how people hoped that these parts of the experience and how the technology behind it would grow to apply beyond VR in the future too. We're going to talk through each of these 3 themes together today. One of our first standout experiences was using VR for socializing. People love to use virtual reality to socialize with others. We noticed that they began to use VR more to socialize during the pandemic, and they still use it more now than they did before as a way to continue to connect with friends and family or meet people from all over the world. It became a tool to satisfy socializing in part because the pandemic made everyone stuck at home, so they needed a way to still see people that they loved or still meet other people and have fun. But now it's used when it's not convenient to leave their home so that they can stay at the comfort of their couch while still going out, having fun at events, and etc. We noticed that a lot of ways that people socialize in VR was to do things like activities with other people side by side. The sense of presence offered by VR made it fun because they weren't just looking screen to screen at somebody. They were able to feel like they were there in the room with them while they watched a movie or played a game together. Experiences that allowed doing activities while socializing really stood out to the people we spoke with. In fact, one of the people we spoke with mentioned that they would go to this game called Walkabout Mini Golf so that they could not only play golf in a really interesting landscape, but so that they could meet with other people. Sometimes they wouldn't even play golf at all. They would simply meet in the golf game so that they could wander around the world together and catch up and hang out. These are all things that work right now. We think we can learn about what people are asking for with these experiences and what they're looking for in these dynamic virtual worlds and environments. So think about how these may apply as more and more metaversical virtual worlds become a reality. People are craving interesting ways to socialize remotely and feel like they're there with other people, even while in a virtual space. Diving into socializing a little bit more, another thing that really came out from the people we spoke with was that they want personalized and custom experiences so that they can feel like they're having fun just like they would in real life. People wanted more ways to represent their personality by designing their avatar or having it look similar to them. They also wanted to have it represent maybe their style or a TV show that they liked so that it would help spark conversations when they're meeting new people in VR, or so that their friends and families would recognize them, that avatar truly represents who they are. People also wanted to customize the environment that they were in. That way they could host people in a home environment that they themselves created. People wanted ways to make their virtual spaces more like a virtual home. We even had one person share with us that they wanted to scan their DVD collection and bring it into VR. That way people could see their entire movie collection, even virtually. People wanted to purchase things to decorate their home, kind of like in the game Sims, if you've ever played that. People wanted to do this so they could host events and activities like movie watching parties, using movies they actually own, or hosting a game night. They wanted also an ability at some point to project friends or family's avatars into their real home too, to kind of bridge that gap between virtual and a physical space. That way they could visit with people and bring them into the comfort of their actual physical home, even if that person was far away. We may consider other ways that we can continue to bridge virtual replicas of physical objects that people own and recognize, virtual homes and apartments, and all of that, with what's possible in a digital environment too. Sharing two quotes really quickly that we thought really emphasized this interest. One of our participants wanted this open world environment so that they could truly go around to meet people or meet up with friends and go to other places with them, such as a virtual concert. Maybe they could play sports together, or they could show off a property that they just made in their virtual home. Or designing an avatar so that their avatar looked realistic, just like them, and helped really show their interest and personality to others. Another standout experience that we noted is that people really loved a way to use their headset to travel and to feel like they weren't constrained in their own home. This was particularly notable during the pandemic, since so many people had a stay-at-home order to adhere to. And so they used their VR headset more often to travel to new places all over the world and to view these places, read about them, or have new experiences. This persisted, and people continue to do this even now. In the future, people shared that they saw a way that they could continue to take virtual trips all around the world from the comfort of their couch. This way, they could also practice an experience that they might want to do in real life, but don't feel comfortable to do yet. For example, trying a skydiving in VR rather than going out into real life to do it right away. We also had people who used things like YouTube VR so that they could get up close in situations that they might not feel comfortable in real life. For example, swimming with sharks where they're right next to you, or jumping off of a cliff, or climbing a mountain. Using these different experiences and applications, like Wander, provided people a way to travel to places that they couldn't travel to at the time, and now they think they might be a good way to almost plan a trip that they want to take in the future, such as using an app like Wander to pick out different tourist locations that they're interested in, so they can build their own custom itinerary before they actually go on a trip. Building these extended reality experiences based on people's innate interests to conveniently travel, even learn, experiment, and explore may be another way to continue to link virtual with physical experiences. This interest for simulated experiences even moved beyond travel. People wanted ways to use virtual reality as a true testing ground. This way, they could run simulations of new ideas before going all in. We had folks who wanted to see what it was like to be a paramedic before they actually went to switch their career. We also had people who thought it would be nice to try to learn something in VR first before actually going all in to learn it in real life. Perhaps scuba diving or learning how to cook. Each of these ways helped people to see if it was something that they had fun doing, and also so that they could feel what it was like before they purchase something like a guitar or a piano. This way they could try out the instrument first and try playing a few songs. People saw ways to use this for trying on clothes as well. If they could try on clothes or an outfit in VR, or even trying new accessories, then they might be able to see how it looks on them before they actually go to get it in real life. These kinds of experiences wouldn't necessarily be limited to a complete immersion as well. These could be ways to lower the immersion level so that people can have a more digital experience. One example might be seeing how a virtual pool looks like in your actual backyard before you break ground to actually build it. This is really exemplified by one of our participants who shared that they were using their VR headset to conduct fitness routines throughout the pandemic and now. They said that they wished that it had more AR so it could be more like mixed reality. They want it to become more real so that they're really there with an exercise coach and they can really feel like he's there in the room, giving them instructions or maybe even yelling at you, inspiring you to keep going, keep moving on. So with that, I'm going to pass this off to Jason to share opportunities to grow.
Thanks, Caitlyn. So while there are glimmers of opportunity where people may be interested in expanding current behaviors or trying new things, what we'd like to do is talk about where there are experiences and opportunities to improve in the future. Throughout our diary and the interviews that we had, we asked people that we spoke with that where there might be opportunities for current VR tech platforms and virtual worlds to improve. We also asked them to reflect on bad experiences that they've had to understand if and how those experiences may impact their views of these technologies. Last, we asked them about their future concerns so that we could determine opportunities for building preemptive design improvements to avoid these issues. People felt less immersed when VR experiences that they had were inconsistent or had low quality to them. They became frustrated with slow loading times or when virtual worlds or platforms glitched or froze and just kind of broke their experience. It take them right out of that sense of immersion that they really enjoy and just deteriorated the entire experience for them. People want higher resolution in VR systems and on the apps so that each one looks and feels more realistic to them. People expect that in the future, the hardware will improve over time, and that will also result in improvements in the software. They want longer battery life, and so that way they can have longer times to use VR and to be in the metaverse. And they also want to be able to carry the system with them to different places. Lighter headsets and handsets may also reduce neck pain or headaches. People look forward to a future tech that is less reliant on the handsets, and they'd like to be able to replace those handsets with haptic gloves and hand tracking. So we have a video of two people that we spoke with that we'd like to share with you, and that will allow you to hear their desires directly from them.
I think they're as realistic as possible, like as good as like the high-end TVs can get nowadays. Like eventually I think that VR should be able to get to that point as well. So you feel like you're actually talking to the person you're talking to. They're actually there rather than in avatar form. I don't know. Just really crisp and clear. I've always thought of the VR as eventually getting to be as realistic and interesting as like being with somebody in the house or looking at a 4K TV. I mean, if you I was kind of thinking something too along the lines of like 3D. So like there's a lot of 3D that's very realistic in my mind, and it looks really good, especially if they take the time to film it with a 3D camera. So maybe they integrate those two technologies together or you know, the VR with the 3D, so we can have the realistic feel.
Okay. So like 3D cameras, and VR, kind of.
Some additional comments included wanting to have a wider field of view, feeling vibrations, and making it easier to overall just transport the system. Realistic recreations of their home and being able to have holograms of friends and loved ones that they can invite into that virtual home. They want it to be as realistic as possible, so it can really feel as though they're talking with a real person. And at the same time, they also want to be able to see themselves as simulation. They want to be able to have that realistic avatar that they could share with whoever it is that they're talking with online. And so this way, you know, in addition to this, people wanted this kind of technology to develop towards a multi-sensory experience. It takes VR and metaverse from 3D into 4D levels. People want to truly feel as though they're touching and manipulating virtual objects, just as if they were holding that object or moving it in real life. They want to be able to do things like hug or high five someone, you know, be able to really experience that and feel it whenever they're with their loved ones. So, for example, haptic gloves or bodysuits were often talked about by people we spoke with because that would allow them to have their actual movements be tracked and accurately represented by their avatars. People like the idea of feeling what they were picking up and touching and feeling the weight of those objects and of what the object texture would be like. The texture part was really something that we heard a lot about. And so some examples include they want to be able to feel like water. They want to actually be able to touch the water and feel the wetness of the water. When it comes to something like wood, wood could be smooth or it could be rough, and they want to be able to see and feel those textural differences. If a cat comes along, they want to be able to pet the cat and feel the fuzziness of the cat's fur and how soft it is. Earlier, we heard an example of going shopping and picking out like a sweater. Well, if you're going to be shopping in an environment like this, they want to be able to feel what the fabric is like before they purchase it. And trying to learn new skills, such as learning how to play a guitar, well, they want to be able to feel what it's like to actually pluck the strings, so that they can get that kind of tactile feedback, so they really can understand and better learn how to use that guitar and how to play it. People also mentioned wanting to have a sense of taste or smell, and they thought that these may be ways that could add even more dimension to virtual environments. And so what we have here in this video, you'll hear from two of the people that we spoke with about the importance of touch.
Why do you think, why feeling, why touch?
Yeah, like I think touch is like very important in terms of like immersiveness, because like say if you play a video game right now, there's only like two mode of sense, is sight and sound. So you can hear what you're playing, you can see what's on the screen, but like if you add touch to it, then it would also add to that immersiveness. And then going back to the education, like a lot of what we do is also based on muscle memory. So obviously like being able to touch thing and feel like know what it feels like to touch it or do it is really important. So like if you're able to feel what you're touching in the virtual world, then that would, I guess you say, advance the hardware to the next level, and I say build on what I just said on the foundation of translating virtual skill you learn in the virtual world to the real world.
So you heard it right there about the importance of touch and be able to translate what they experience in the virtual world to what they might experience in the real world. Now, not everything online or in VR is enjoyable. We heard from numerous people about their concerns for social experiences in the metaverse. We have a particularly striking quote from one individual we spoke with that I'm sharing with you now. Generally, online, people see it as a space to do whatever they want. They'll do things that they will not do in real life. They're anonymous. They throw away their morals when they go online sometimes. That sentiment was not unique. We heard from several of our participants about some of the experiences that they've had. Going back from an early stage of the internet, that there have been times that people have gone online and been just simply bad actors and have made for bad experiences for others. I'm sure that we've all experienced internet trolls who had nothing to an online conversation other than bile. The people we spoke with were concerned with the lack of moderation in the virtual worlds and apps that they've experienced so far. As the technology develops further, people are worried that more opportunities for harassment could increase, especially since they've already experienced it. This includes things like yelling, verbal harassment, inappropriate movements and gestures, touching or invasion of space. For some that we spoke with, the personal space of an avatar can be just as important as the personal space in real life. So because there's already issues now in virtual environments that allow for interaction, people are concerned that these spaces could go unmoderated, or that the platforms will not include safety measures, things like blocking or muting others. Concerns that the experience will be overwhelmed with negativity and become a toxic environment. We heard from those that we interviewed that they're concerned that as virtual experiences and virtual worlds grow, their data may be collected, sold, and shared without their permission, or that their data may be collected and stored in an insecure way. So that their data may end up being hacked into, stolen, and then used by others. While we do see that early adopters are more relaxed around data collection and privacy, this also does indicate to us that as more of this technology moves from emerging into more mainstream, we're hearing the first murmurs of concerns around data privacy. And this should be considered as the metaverse continues to grow further. So we heard from some of the people that we spoke with that VR had reached a point where the price was accessible for many. But as a direct counterpoint, they also would say that the people that they were concerned that as they continue to engage in the metaverse, that the costs will rise. And so they've become concerned that as the metaverse grows, that there will be increased hardware costs from computer upgrades and even VR hardware, that there'll also be paywalls and subscriptions. This also includes concerns about expensive pricing of apps and also ads. They're concerned that they're going to be bombarded by ads within a virtual environment. They're concerned that their data will also be sold. So users want to have the ability to turn off that data collection. And we heard from several about how Apple had provided a single switch for turning off data collection on the iPhone. And they want to see the same thing for the metaverse. So they want to be able to live a second life free from data collection. So now Caitlyn's going to go ahead and recap some of our key takeaways for you.
So today we learned and shared some of our key takeaways, and so I'm going to summarize them here too. And we've got 6 of these. We learned that people value and naturally use virtual reality right now to explore new places, socialize with other people, and learn and simulate or try new experiences. These activities may prove helpful as starting points for the emerging extended reality and metaverse tech landscape. We also learned that people want improved experiences, especially by incorporated multisensory technology, so that these become even more real. Improving hardware and software so that the quality of experiences increases too, as well as having improved comfort with lighter hardware so that they can use the technology for longer periods of time. We also learned that safety measures and data protection will continue to be important concerns as virtual and metaversical worlds are more adopted by the public. Although this is all new technology, people are still people. They want a certain amount of familiarity. Ultimately, by making any virtual experiences and spaces safe and comfortable, familiar and intuitive, the better time that people are going to have. And the more improved perceptions they're going to have too of the companies that are involved in building all of these experiences. We thank you so much for joining us today and want to quickly say that this really only scratches the surface. We were only able to share a few of the key takeaways that we learned throughout the course of our study, and so are so excited to share more over the next year. So thank you, and we'll welcome questions and discussion for the remaining, all of our remaining time here today.
And we've actually already gotten a question here. This person says that they love this, and can this research be used to size these consumer audiences and make projections? To that I'd say, I think that this tells us a lot about where the users of the metaverse are right now and what their hopes are for the future, as well as some potential concerns to earmark as plans move forward into the development of the metaverse. You heard several of those concerns echoed by a variety of people we spoke with, as well as many of their hopes. And so I think a lot of it is dependent on kind of the development of technology itself, miniaturizing the technology, making it lighter, making it able to perform better, while at the same time considering where the individuals that will be the users of it, where they stand and their concerns for having their data be private, as well as being able to kind of have their own safety within that environment as well.
I'll only add that I think these are really good starting grounds and things to keep in mind. So as you're considering to build out spaces and reach audiences of those spaces, it is always good to do research if you're anticipating that there are going to be a lot of different kinds of users or different consumers in them. However, these are really good starting points of things that you can keep track of to make sure that as you're building something out or planning something, you can kind of preemptively plan, as Jason was saying, to make sure that it's a high quality experience, or that it's safe for the people who are going to use it.
Got another question regarding the avatars themselves and why they don't have legs. They're floating torso.
I think, do you want to take this one, or should I?
Well, you can go ahead and start, and I'll fill in if there's anything else.
Okay. So in the videos that we shared, you saw the avatars do not have legs. A lot of the current social experiences that are available in virtual platforms usually will not put legs as a default. This is just because the tracking right now mostly is tracking head and also hands. So it's a lot easier to gauge where the torso is rather than the legs. However, there are a few social apps that do allow legs. The only thing is it's the quality of the tracking isn't as strong, since not every single headset has accessories that you can put on to track where the legs are going to be. So sometimes the platforms will just opt to remove the legs entirely so that it is a better quality experience, until legs are something that can be easily tracked without it looking funny.
I will add that we did have some of the people that were in the study. They had actually expressed an interest in having leg tracking, and again, that issue of wanting to keep the price accessible was something that they also echoed. So they want to have the leg tracking, but they also want to make sure that it remains affordable. They felt as though as soon as the price starts rising and you start getting into $1,000+ dollars for a rig, then it's becomes really inaccessible for many, and kind of can in some ways kind of kill the experience, if you will. And so if there's ways to develop the technology, make it affordable so that leg tracking is available, it will add so much more realism for those experiences and make them more enjoyable. And then we can migrate away from having kind of floating torsos to having full body avatars to really take advantage of some of that technology.
Absolutely. And actually that reminded me a little bit of one of the people we spoke with, actually more than one, wanted to, we mentioned earlier that they wanted to move the headset around, take it with them into different places. Right now, a lot of the headsets are usually used at home in a pretty secure place. But as people envisioned what the future could look like, and as they were envisioning, oh, maybe these will be become more AR or VR, so you could kind of swap between. They also are thinking it would be cool if they could take the headsets with them out into other places. So I think it would be an interesting thing to think about how leg tracking or even hand tracking might work outside of a controlled home environment, but also could work and apply to other areas of the world, and where there might be interesting interactions between virtual and physical. Like maybe if you're at a park, you could use the headset to get more information about the trees or the plants around you and learn more about it, things like that. Are there any other questions, Jason, that we should cover off on?
Nothing just yet. Let's give it a moment, see if anybody else has any other questions.
Okay, should we do a last call?
Yeah, that sounds fair.
All right. So with that, I think, Ellen, if you want to.
We got one.
Did we get one?
We got it. Okay.
Oh, go for it. Well,
sorry, it was another message. Sorry. Yeah, no, I think it's we'd be okay to wrap up this time.
all right, great. Ellen, take it away.
Oh, we just got one.
I just want to say how fascinated I was during the entire, yes, you did just get one.
Oh,
They want to know the cost.
Yes. Yeah, they'd like to know the cost, set up an environment in which to try out a product or service. So if you're talking about the VR headset itself, you know,
or
you can.
The environment, the virtual environment, like a virtual world.
Yeah. Yeah, in terms of the VR headset itself, those are, you know, the MetaQuest 2 is a fairly inexpensive device, and it's bought for a few $100s and has can be quite enjoyable. In terms of the actual environments themselves, prices range a good deal. There are some environments that you can have some, you know, kind of free experiences in. For instance, you know, VR chat is one in which you can go into for free. Whereas others, such as spatial, have fees associated with them. And I'm sorry, off the top of my head, I do not recall what the price of that is, but they do have fairly moderate to modest monthly pricing and subscriptions available for these sorts of environments, as does Frame VR.
Yeah, I think I want to add to that. I think that one, the cost is going to really depend on the kind of experience or environment that you want to build. And that also goes for headsets as well. So it really depends on what your needs are. So for example, some headsets that are extremely high quality in terms of they can connect to a robust computer system. So they have really high quality graphics and can process things nicely. Those kinds of headsets can be quite expensive and can offer environments that are incredibly realistic and detailed. So if you're thinking like, you know, if you needed an environment that had extremely reflective, sensitive to light so that you could show a product as big as a car, or even showing like the shine of a kitchen appliance, and including like being able to map movements so that you could even see how people open or turn a knob or push buttons. Like additional details like that can increase the cost of building an environment a little bit. But it all depends on where you want the money to go. So I've seen, you know, quotes range drastically depending on what you want to use it for. If it's something as simple as setting up a conversation, as Jason mentioned, there are pre-built environments that you can set up and use for like making conferences or doing presentations, and those can be much more affordable. But building a custom environment would be a little bit more than that. However, that way you can really design it to suit your needs. So those could be a few thousand or more, depending on the quality you're looking for.
A
Are there any
lot
other
of great
questions?
detail, both to the questions and presentation. I just really want to thank Caitlyn and Jason and for everyone attending today. While we did get to your questions during the live presentation, do please email us directly with any follow-up questions. You will in turn receive a link to today's recorded presentation, so please be on the lookout for that later this week. That now concludes today's webinar. Have a wonderful day, everyone.